Hi guys, this is Miss Aisha Khan. I'm leading the Wellbeing Department at Nixor College. And today I'm super excited to have Dostain from KDSP here. Dostain, can you tell us about yourself, please?
My name is Dostain. I work for the Resource Mobilization team. I'm the assistant manager here, and it's lovely to be here.
I'm so glad that you're here. And the idea to shoot this podcast is to come to you guys, because some of you aren't coming to us. Why don't we reach out to you? Yeah. So I'm really excited for you to be here. And I would like you firstly to share the story, everything about KDSP, around KDSP. Can you tell us a bit more?
Sure. So if I were to go completely in the beginning, it starts with the story of a couple actually.
Okay.
Ali Lawala and Frizzy. And they had a daughter who had Down syndrome in 2011. When the daughter was born, they went to all the hospitals over here and they were told by the doctors that this is not a quality of life worth living. And then they decided not to give up. They had the resources to look up and sort of seek help. They looked up research. They found out the best Down syndrome clinic was in Boston in the US. And shortly after that, they went to Boston. When they were at the Down syndrome clinic, Ali realized that he saw some individuals with Down syndrome working at the clinic.
No.
Which really confused him. At the same time, he just never expected to see anything like this before. So he goes to the counter and he asks the person, what is this individual doing here? And the person at the counter sort of gave a very confused look, like, what do you mean, what's he doing here? He works here as an employee. And that, I think, for could not fathom it. What do you mean he works here and stuff? And he was like, yeah, they are giving me for me and stuff. And that was the first time that he was like, okay, whatever. You know, what they've told me in my home country was not completely correct.
Wow.
That individuals with Down syndrome can be independent, they can have a job like this individual did. And that's where, their daughter Leah's story began of getting her early childhood intervention therapies, which are speech therapy, occupational therapy, physical therapies. Soon after, they decided that they were going to establish something in Pakistan, because a lot of families over here don't have the resources to go to the US to seek the help that Ali and Frizzy did. But they wanted to focus on Aliyah's early childhood intervention therapies first. So by the time those were done in 2014, they came back and established the Karachi Down Syndrome.
Wow. This was what year?
2014.
2014.
Yes.
Wow.
So the first campaign they wanted to do was have 10 families and have billboards all across Karachi. And the theme was sort of going to be parents who were going to say that they were proud of their children who had Down syndrome. They couldn't find 10 families.
Really?
They could only find 7.
Wow.
Because people would just refuse to be part of.
Right. Well, why do you think they were refusing to be a part of something so big?
The social stigma.
Yes.
Are we really going to go out on a billboard and advertise that there's something wrong with our child?
Wrong. Yeah, we've all heard that. We've all seen that.
And that's really not the case. That's why I do this in specific.
I know.
But, and that's when they realize that it's not just individuals with Down syndrome that needs to be worked on. It's also the society, their families. Because, at the end of the day, they were going to be the people who brought their individuals, their children, their relatives to KDSP.
Absolutely.
So that was the story of how KDSP started, and it's been a while since, been 8 years that we're going strong. We went from those 7 families, we're at 1,600 plus families.
1,600 plus families now. So, Dostain, how would you say, if you were really, I know that you've been a part of this journey, and if you were to really look back and see this in a big picture, what would you say, how is the general attitude of I wouldn't say the society, but people that you meet or, on a daily basis, how do you think they really review what is Down syndrome to them? What do they think Down syndrome is?
I like to divide this into people who don't have an individual who has Down syndrome in their families.
Right.
And then those who do. So if I were to talk about our family network, we recently celebrated the Down syndrome awareness month.
Yes.
We had a campaign which is still ongoing called Debunking. We had a music video for it.
Yes.
And even now, parents from our family network come to us and they're like, why did you make our children music?
Really?
So, it went from we don't want them publicized, we don't want anybody finding out about them, to why are they not in this music?
Which is huge,
Which
right?
is huge. Just the acceptance that they have of their child, that they can be out in that music video view of the world can see them and they don't feel bad or ashamed about it. I feel like that's massive work on its own.
It's beautiful, I think, and I feel like if I was to step out and if I was to go out and ask random people, not just on the road, but even good educated places, educational institutions, so many people would not know what Down syndrome really is. Would you like to tell me what Down syndrome is? But before that, what I would like to do is I would like to pick up few major myths around Down syndrome, and I would ask you to help me to debust these myths, right? The first one is that people assume that Down syndrome it's a disease. They use the word disease.
Down syndrome is not a disease, it's a genetic condition, which is very different than a disease, because a disease entails that there's a cure for it, that something went wrong later. This is just how they are. It happens when there's an additional, like a partial or a complete copy of like an extra pair of the 21st chromosome.
Right.
So if anything, they have one more chromosome, which makes them extra special.
Right.
It's not a disease. It's like saying, why is that person born with brown eyes rather than green eyes? You must get them surgery. You must change their eye color.
Right.
So it's just who they are.
Right. So it is a genetic condition.
It is a genetic
condition. And it is not a disease. It's as simple as that. The second myth that I want to kind of debust with you is people with Down syndrome cannot have normal lives and they cannot have normal relationships. What would you like to say?
I think that's entirely incorrect. If they're given the right therapies at the right time, they can achieve so much.
Right.
We have an assistant teacher at KDSP who has Down syndrome.
And she's teaching them.
Yeah, she's teaching the other individuals with Down syndrome. So that in itself is such a huge testament to what one can achieve.
Right.
We have this other individual who can play the musical, he understands musical notes, he can read music, he can play the piano. He also is a swimming instructor at the Down syndrome clinic at teaches other individuals with Down syndrome how to swim, which is huge.
Right.
So we have the individual with Down syndrome who participated in the Special Olympics.
Yes.
So if we were to look at all of these things that have happened, there's so many who've achieved so much. So we can never be like, oh, they can't really do what. They've so definitely done more things than I have in my life. As far as relationships go, they're very emotionally intelligent, and they definitely can attach with people, and you can, like I said, my coworker has Down syndrome. With her, it's pretty much very easy for me to sometimes forget that she even has Down syndrome, because she was lucky enough to get all the right therapies at the right time.
Right.
So sometimes at work, she's very sarcastic towards me. Sometimes if I do something, if I forget to do something that I was supposed to be doing, it's a very nice relationship that we have. So I really enjoy the fact that she's as pretty as she is.
Right.
It really makes me think that they can, honestly, if given the right therapies at the right time, they can form any sorts of
relationships and achieve anything, really lead very fulfilling lives.
But it's mostly the societal stigma that tells them you can't do these things rather than their own capabilities.
Right. I think that is something we will come back to again also. Myth number 3 that I would love to debust is people with Down syndrome, they're always happy. Like, I've heard that so many times, that they're super happy all the time, and almost negating the fact that they can experience emotions as well as you and I can.
There was a survey done in the United States with individuals with Down syndrome. We often use the word they're suffering with Down syndrome.
Yes.
This person is suffering with Down syndrome.
Yes.
And there was a research done to see if these individuals are actually really suffering, and if I were to ask you, how content are you with your life at the moment? Give me a percentage.
70 is a good one. 70%.
On a good day, you're at a 70.
I could go up to 80 maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
And on a bad day?
10.
So, there's this fluctuation.
Absolutely.
We have our good days, we have our bad days.
Yeah.
So, we're some days content with our life, some days we're not.
Absolutely.
Individuals with Down syndrome, this 99% of them said that they were very content with their life.
99%.
Yes, that they were really content with their lives. They wouldn't change anything about their lives, even if they were given the chance to.
Wow.
So, they're very content with their lives. Of course, they're happy, yes, but that doesn't mean they don't feel negative emotions. They feel sadness. They're very emotionally intelligent, so they can pick out if something doesn't work out. if somebody's mean to them,
Right.
if somebody's, and they might not vocalize it as
Yeah.
well, or they might not want to, but it's not that they don't feel it. They
Right.
feel all the emotions. that they
Right.
feel.
So important, guys. We need to debust that big time. So I feel like in my career, I've had people walking around, people with Down syndrome, and pretending that they don't exist, right? And that for me has been like, I really feel deeply for that. Like I feel like these are people with fulfilling lives, and they have relationships. I sometimes those times I've also felt like they feel much more than we do on a regular day. Like I know like little kids, happy little kids, who would sense that I'm not feeling good today, or who would sense I'm not doing well today. And not all kids sense that.
Yeah, the sense of empathy is definitely
Right.
there. It's something that at work that's when I realized that if you're happy with them, they're very kind. They're very, if you consider like a typical child,
Yeah.
and they're sometimes very spoiled also.
Yes.
Typical children,
Yes.
but with individuals with Down syndrome, I realize they're very grateful for all that's being done for them. They're,
Absolutely.
It's just nice to be around.
Right.
them.
I absolutely agree. Another myth, which is like a big one, is that people with Down syndrome cannot have meaningful conversations, and they cannot relate to everyday life situations.
Not true at all. Definitely, like I said, my coworker, she
Yeah.
definitely like lives life like I do. She comes to work, she has to do her job, she has to go back home. It's pretty much the same schedule that I have at work, only we just work in different departments.
Wow.
With other individuals, there's lots of individuals who have now been placed into places like internship opportunities. One of them was interning at a pharmacy one time. So, they do have a regular life, they go to work.
Do you feel, those then, this opportunity to have a regular life is important? Because if we were not to provide early intervention, they might not have a chance at. Yeah, would you like to
It's
say
pretty
something
much
about
like
that?
you're taking the chance away from them to live.
Right.
Like, let's say if I were to look at my coworker,
Yeah.
she had not been given the right therapies at the right time.
Right. What would you say is the right time? Would you
the
want
first 1,000 days
Yes.
of a child's life is
Wow.
very important.
first 1,000 days?
That's when these therapies are the most effective. So if
Okay.
they're given occupational therapy, speech therapy, and physical therapy
Yeah.
in these first 1,000 days of their
Speech, occupational, and physical therapy.
Yes.
3 different kinds of therapy.
life. Yes.
First 1,000 days. So let's assume we were a regular family with no background, no awareness to Down syndrome. How would I be able to identify? How would I know that this child might possibly have Down syndrome? What would be the first indicators?
So there's prenatal tests
Okay.
that are, you can get them done and you can find out before your delivery that your child has Down syndrome.
Fair
But
enough.
Prenatal care is not very popular in
Yeah,
Pakistan.
it's
It's just
not.
making up trend.
Right.
So most of our tests are postnatal.
Okay.
But outside that, there's some common characteristics such as their eyes are squinted a little upwards.
Right.
Their nose bridge, for us it's slightly out. For them
Okay.
it's flat.
Right.
They have a single crease in their hand,
Okay.
and their toes, the first two are there's some distance between them.
Okay.
So these are the most typical features that we
Okay.
have, and of course don't apply to everybody, but
Okay.
apply to most.
Okay.
So when somebody contacts us, my child might have Down syndrome, somebody from the family support network might ask for pictures of, their hands, their feet,
Okay.
their face, so better identify. And sometimes they don't have them, in which case we suggest that they get these tests done to confirm.
Okay, fair enough. I think that's a brilliant. That's something I didn't know personally, and I think those are brilliant first indicators. Dostain, so for me, it's so important to I speak about mental health generally, and I feel like somebody, for example, somebody with schizophrenia, people are going to go ahead and say, there's a schizophrenic right there, rather than saying that person has schizophrenia. So using the first person language. And I've noticed that with Down syndrome also, people are generally going to walk around saying, they use words like down, E also, and stuff like that. I would like you today to use this as an opportunity to help educate our masses and tell them how would you be around somebody with Down syndrome? What would be the right language to use? What would be the right body language to use? What should I really take care of? please educate our listeners.
I've heard words like pagal,
Yes.
mastana, divana, and these are all very
Yeah.
appropriate words.
Yeah.
Normal, one word that people use, ye to abnormal hair.
Abnormal
or ye to
hair.
normal hair.
Yes.
There is no definition of normalcy, really,
Yeah.
if we were to think about it. We've just like whatever is the majority, we tend to think, oh, this is normal, and whatever falls in the minority, we're like, this is abnormal.
Yeah.
And that might be very subjective, area by area. Let's say what's normal over here might not be normal in the US, or what's normal there might not be here.
True.
So one thing that I would really want everybody to know is that there is really no normal and there's really no abnormal.
Thank you for saying that
this is
aloud.
very
Let's repeat that again.
Yes,
There's really,
no.
really no.
Normal, no abnormal.
Thank you. Yeah.
They're not suffering like we already
They're not.
established.
So I heard something like the only thing I'm suffering from is bad attitudes.
Yeah. For
Seriously.
sure, yeah.
Right?
So we over here we put the individual first, not their condition, because they're still an individual, right? Like let's say if I were to call you hijab wallah,
Yes.
you know that's offensive.
Don't do
right?
that. Yeah.
like,
Like, I'm Aisha and I wear the hijab, right?
Yes, so that the hijab isn't just you as a person. You're more than just a covering. So similarly over here, I think the individual always has to come first.
Yeah.
So if it's let's say Dostain who has Down syndrome,
ठीक है.
not Down syndrome wala Dostain,
ठीक है.
or some people would even go say Down's baby, which is also disrespectful. That's not all who they are. They have a personality, they have interests, they have lives. So let's refer to them as people and not the condition that they have.
Beautiful, Dostain. Thank you for saying that. Would you tell us something which we should really be mindful of while we're doing any interaction, any form of conversation with people who have Down syndrome?
We should really get to know them. We shouldn't have this hesitation of going up to them as long as we're using the appropriate, respectful language.
Would you like to highlight that? What do you think? Respectful language would
Like
look
some people might just be terrified. What if I say something which might not, they're walking on eggshells around
Yes,
them.
like being over cautious,
Yes,
right?
they can sometimes even sense that.
Right.
So like you don't necessarily have to do that as long
Right.
as you're not saying anything offensive and mean. And
Yeah.
like let's say when I'm talking to you,
Yes.
I'm not going to walk around eggshells. Oh, what if I say something that offends Aisha? Because there's some parts of my brain that knows I'm using respectful language.
Right.
I'm not saying anything that's going to hurt her. And that's not my intention.
Right.
So as long as I'm mindful of such things,
Right.
I automatically will not say anything
Fair enough.
that will be offensive.
So what you're saying really is that be as respectful and as mindful as any other individual. Right.
And then just get to interact with them.
Get
Of
to know
course,
them.
There's some differences,
Yeah.
but these differences help us. Research actually shows that children in inclusive settings do more the better for individuals with Down syndrome and their typical peers.
Yeah.
So they're actually both doing better off from this inclusive settings. And we don't have that in schools. We don't have schools where it's like an inclusive school where they cater to individuals with Down syndrome alongside the typical peers.
Right.
That's one of the biggest problems that we have at the moment. Schools refuse to, because that's an added resource that goes into teaching. For sure, there is an intellectual delay, which is why they need extra help.
Right.
Doing what somebody else might do.
Right.
So parts of it, I really should explain what hypotonia is.
Please do.
And why these therapies are so important.
Yes.
So for us, our muscles are rigid.
ठीक है.
For them, their muscles are very flexible. They really need to be worked, trained to be as rigid as our
Right.
muscles. Now the tongue is a muscle.
ठीक है.
Your posture, you use your muscles. So
Absolutely.
certain milestones that a child might achieve automatically without parents even realizing are milestones that individual with Down syndrome need help.
Right.
So like, putting your neck out straight, like
Okay.
you're not using support when you're sitting up straight, moving your tongue properly, swallowing, these are all muscles.
So are you saying, let's suppose this is a 3-year-old child with Down syndrome, with intervention and therapy, the child can speak much better versus somebody who has no intervention at all?
Yes. Because let's say when KDSP started, some adult families came to us and they said, we're catering to young individuals. We know that they have individuals who are older. What about them? So we decided to have speech development classes for them. And we really thought that we categorize them as non-verbal because they don't talk. And we thought it was going to be hard to teach them how to do different communication terms and stuff. But we realized that they were very visual learners. and they really picked up on things really fast.
Wow.
So where we thought that they might need to communicate more in order to pick up this skill, they really just looked at the instructor doing a certain thing and they would just pick that up and start
Observation.
Yes.
Wow.
So whereas definitely the childhood therapies do make a lot of difference, it
Okay.
really does.
Okay.
But other individuals who are older might not have gotten those therapies, but still are picking up different skills like weaving, pottery, sewing. These are all skills that are taught in our skills developmental classes,
Wow.
and they do that really well.
On that note, would you like to tell us a bit more about Kashti?
Yes, so we call
this
ourselves.
is, guys, this is like the highlight of the entire thing. So proud of you guys. Please let our viewers know.
Yeah, so we call ourselves a Kashti. When families come to us, we tell them that we're in this Kashti together. The water, the ocean might be rough, it might be smooth in some places, but we will cross this ocean together. Now the Kashti, each letter is it's an acronym for each of our services. The K is Khandani Sahara, the family support network.
Right.
This is where, let's say, a new parent comes into play, like to KDSP, they know or they have an entire network of families as support. We have a mother.
Like a community,
It's
right?
a community.
Wow.
Like, what works out for them, what they struggled with. and
Imagine
how-
that support. I mean,
Exactly.
unbelievable support.
So that's Khandani Sahara. We have then we have Agahi, which is awareness, what we're doing right now over here, telling the society about Down syndrome, connecting all of these things.
Yeah.
S is Sehat. So these individuals are sometimes born with they have a hole in the heart,
Okay.
hearing and speech impairments. So these are things that need immediate
Like
attention.
biological care,
Yes,
physiological care.
yes.
Okay.
So, and these are usually done in the early years. So, like, this is why we have partnered with Al Khan and Indus to provide healthcare to these individuals.
ठीक है.
Then we have, which is like
Skills.
Yeah, skills.
ठीक है.
T is Talim and I is Ibrahim,
Right.
which is the early childhood therapy, speech therapy, physical therapy,
Wow, this is amazing. Dostain, I really can't express this enough. I am so proud of KDSP for doing this. I would finally want you to tell our viewers about what Pyar Banto is.
So, October is International Down Syndrome Awareness Month.
Yeah?
And because of all the judgment, the prejudice individuals with Down syndrome have to go through on a daily basis
Yes.
from society, from people around them, we wanted to integrate something that would sort of go with everybody. This is why the campaign is called Pyar Banto.
Yes.
So everybody, instead of focusing on what sets us apart, how do we show love to people? What can we do to include people more into our lives, be more inclusive people? And so this is why when we went giving awareness sessions throughout the school, we named this Pyar Banto.
Wow.
Because when you only know is when you can be inclusive
Absolutely.
towards people.
I am so proud of you guys, and I am super, super happy to have you on board. So this is the beginning of a new journey together, and I feel like we really want to be involved as much as possible. We have been in the past, and we want to be even more involved in creating an inclusive Pakistan. So here, guys, to a more inclusive Pakistan. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Lovely to have you, Dostain.
Thank you for
Take
having
care.
us.
Thank you, guys.